Well, I hope you enjoyed episode 1 and 2 of Effect Audio series, where we are trying to explore all the product that Effect Audio and Elysian Acoustics has to offer. While they make some interesting IEMs, they make intriguing cables as well. However, before exploring cables, one question that comes to our mind is, do cable really matter? Well, let's find out. So, do cable matters? Yes and no. Well, let's explore that in detail because the results are really interesting. So to test this theory out, I invested in a lot of cable in past 6 months, and I reached out to Effect Audio as well because I know their cables are very well regarded. They were kind enough to provide me their latest Aries X Cadmus and Cadmus 2, in addition to their newly launched Cadmus Lite series, which we'll discover in the next video. However, for this one, the real answer is, do cable really matter? So let's divide this into 4 parts. Number 1, how can a cable change sound? Number 2, what was my experience? Number 3, do you really need a cable? And number 4, why Effect Audio is your best bet. So first, let's start and understand how do cables can actually change sound. Well, theoretically, there are many principles that can change a sound. For example, first and foremost is resistance and impedance. These two terms simply defines how easy or difficult is the power delivery of your IEMs or headphones via cable you choose. And it depends a lot on the material that is used to make cables as well as connectors. Well, the good news is if you use OCC 5N or above, it is very easy to prevent, and it is fairly available even in the budget market. So until and unless you have a very sensitive IEM and you have a cable that has very high impedance or it is restricting flow in some way, it is very hard that sound can change. And it is very unlikely in today's market because widely available excellent craftsmanship in mass production. To understand how impedance mismatch can change the sound or FR, you can check out this video where I have explained everything in the reference of a DAC. The principle is same here as well. Second thing that comes into play here is capacitance and inductance. Let's understand both of these terms in an easy way. Well, let's take this for an example. Capacitance is your protein bar that is in your bag, apart from your lunchbox. In case you still get hungry, you have that protein bar to curb the hunger. And at the same time, inductance is your lunchbox, which gives you steadily food supply irrespective of whatever is happening in the cafeteria. Kind of stupid example, but I hope it makes things clear. So capacitance is basically a storage of electrical flow which releases as and when you need it. And at the same time, inductance makes sure that you have steady flow of current. And here, capacitance generally change the higher frequencies and inductance change the lower frequencies. And this phenomena is generally applicable for very long cables. Less than 3 meter, it is not an issue as such. And we are dealing like 1.2 or 1.5 meter cable mostly in our IEMs and headphones. So again, with the cable length, it can easily be prevented, and the cables that we are using are very short length. So again, the result should be very negligent here to be applied as a sound change. And the final thing here is shielding and interference. It simply means we shield the cable in such a way that there's minimal or no electromagnetic interference, which in turn generally create noise, hiss, wheezing, etc. By the way, shielding is one of the things that adds up a lot of cost to the cable making, because there are many patterns that can be done. Some are cheap, some are expensive, and generally in expensive cables they use the best pattern they can use for the shielding. So we got to know there are various phenomena that theoretically can change the sound. However, in modern market, even the mass production is so good with good materials that there are very unlikely chances that they will change in such a massive manner. So what was my experience? Well, I tried a lot of cables. Here are some of the cables that I finalized for the last level of testing, and I would simply say 90% of the time or scenarios I could not find any difference whatsoever in the cable changes. At least not to my ear. However, in 10% changes, there was a change. Specifically, I want to say one specific incident here where I was using The Audio Monarch Mark II and I was doing A/B testing for 4 different cables. I was A/Bing with Effect Audio's AXE, there's Aries 8 wire, Aries Lite and Cadmus 2 and I listened to a change that was very obvious. Let me tell you exactly where and how. Disclaimer, by the way, the song I am going to portray here is a Hindi song. So for all my international audience, while it is Hindi song, please do give it a listen because the beat that I'm going to explain was specifically the beat that changed and was very well perceivable here. So in the song Mahi Ve by A.R. Rahman, in the first 30-40 seconds, there was a good bass beats that come like tak, tak, tak. And I could actually feel the difference in that bass beat. The Aries X Cadmus was a bit thin in comparison to Aries cable. Aries cable portrayed slightly thicker bass note as compared to that. And at the same time, Aries X Cadmus as well as Cadmus has faster transient, has a little bit more clarity. So I immediately started drilling down to what is happening here. So I started measuring them. First I did FR measure, simple and most effective. If FR shows there's a change, there's definitely a change. Well, when I checked out, there was not much change, especially in the bass region. There was not much change, which was very easily I could hear. And at the same time, in the treble region, there was some changes here and there, which makes sense why I was perceiving a bit of thinness and a bit more clarity in AXE and Cadmus cable as compared to Aries. So the next thing, I started checking out the clarity, the decay as well as distortion levels. And distortion again was very much negligent in all the cables, almost similar to each other. But one thing that stood out was decay. If I take an example of AXE versus Aries here, same happened with Cadmus versus Aries as well. AXE had a faster decay in comparison to Aries, which in turn gave that slight body perception to the bass. Mind you, it all happened in milliseconds. While it was perceivable, it is not very easily perceivable. You need a bit of focus listening. And at the same time, AXE versus Cadmus, I could not find that much of a difference that I got Cadmus versus Aries or AXE versus Aries. So all in all, I would say there was a change that I could perceive. However, it was very hard to find out. And in most of the scenarios, it was not perceivable. Which comes to the next part. Do you need a cable? When the perceivable change is so small or so negligent, do you need a cable? Well, yes and no. 90% of the viewers who are watching this video do not need a separate cable or to invest in a cable as expensive as Effect Audio or maybe even more expensive cables. By the way, I think Effect Audio is a sweet spot. More than that, you do not need to go, because expensive cable doesn't mean a good cable. So back to the topic, 90% of the viewers do not need cable swapping or invest in a cable. Why? Number one, you do not have that level of gears that can create that level of perception. Second, in the similar price range, you can get another IEM which can totally change your perception or your experience altogether in all the scenarios you can understand. So in both the scenarios, it doesn't make sense. Just like DAC video I explained, for a budget buyer, it doesn't make any sense to invest in very expensive DACs as well as expensive cables. Now, who need the cable replacement? There are three categories. One, the cable is broken. Well, you need a new cable, right? Get the one that comes best in your budget and you're sorted. Second, and it is the most important category and most important demography for the cables, especially premium cables. You own a top of the line IM and you want to improve some very slight changes like transient, some weight note here or there, or some clarity to that IM. Well, in this case, you want to buy some cable because you're not going to buy another $3,000, $2,000 IEM, right? Here, the cable is your best buddy after DAC and ear tips. And number third, you just want to experience what the hell is this? Well, welcome to the world, my friend, and the empty wallets. I paid $1,500 in various cable last 6 months just to perceive that there's a very small change. Now that you're in category 2, you want to have a cable, you want to experience these premium cables and how can they change sound, if not, well, you should consider Effect Audio. Why? Number one, premium craftsmanship. These cables are end-to-end premium. They are beautiful, very good to hold, well behaved, no microphonics. Like whatever I need in a cable, it's there. Number two, there are interchangeable connectors like MMCAX to 2-pin to Pentacon. Like in my case, I have all 3 connectors and I keep on changing here and there. And yes, you can use their MMCX with Sennheiser as well. On my Sennheiser i900, I continuously use Cadmus only. And the third one, these cables are built to last. They are not going anywhere unless your dog chews it. Just FYI, one of my Cadmus cable was wearing out. After so many years of usage, I just changed the connector and it's as good as new now. Now I did find some differences here and there. It can be placebo, psychoacoustic as well because it is a debatable topic. However, my conclusion would be listen yourself. If you find there's a difference, there is a difference. If you find there is no difference, there's no difference. In this hobby, if you can hear a difference, just stick to it. And additionally, financially, cables are always tertiary. DACs and ear tips always comes first, after IEMs of course. And then you need to change the cables if you have to. I generally change the cable because I really like how they look and behave. I have so many audiophile friends who always debate about this topic. Some of us believe in cables, some of us do not, but at the end we always enjoy our gears just like the next person. And if you decide to buy the cable, well, Effect Audio has you covered in all these scenarios. They are good. They have 4-wire, they have light, they have 8-wire. You want premium, affordable, they have it. I will leave the link in description, so do check out their catalog. It's interesting. If it covers your need, you can always get one. In the end, I would simply say cable can change the sound, potentially, via factors like resistance, impedance mismatch, cable length, potential impacts here and there. However, it all depends on your setup as well and the perception. For most users, it might not change anything. However, for some, it might change a lot. And as I explained earlier, it's a very debatable topic with very different understanding here and there. I tried to cover both the scenarios here. I hope I was able to clear some of your doubts and I was able to confuse some of you. So do share your thoughts, how cable matters to you, what are your experience, and I'll see you in the next one.